Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday edition, July 29th, for Wave Extra. I'm Jose Sosaya here in the Wave Now studio, breaking down all the big stories, headlines, updates, the stories we've been diving into, fleshing out throughout the morning and into the evening. Appreciate you if you're joining us through the Wave Now app from your smart TV and those apps, and of course on all of our social media channels, Facebook, Twitch, X, YouTube. Always appreciate you spending a little bit of time as we're rounding out our day, and hopefully you're doing so indoors in the comfort of some fans, some cool currents, some AC. We're still going to be talking about how soon this really sticky hot temperature is going to fade away. If you joined us earlier on in the day, we had the storm tracking team letting us know relief is coming on the way soon. You're going to be seeing quite a pleasant weekend, in fact. So make sure if you want to stay on top of all that, those updates, we have the Wave Weather app as a great resource. We're going to go through a lot of those upcoming changes on Wave News at 11 tonight as well. So we're going to get started to that point about doing our best to stay protected in the heat. Meaning by that is that you do have some kinds of lessons, instructions, teachers and students having to spend some time outdoors because it's part of the work they do. And so in this case, students from Jefferson Community and Technical College, so JCPS, they're in the Linemen program, and they're learning, in this case, the essential strategies of staying safe in the heat whenever they're called upon to do this. So this program prepares the students to get the job done in all types of weather. Of course, you might expect when there's a powerful winter storm, they need to rush in to get those lines reconnected, but the same might apply in a sweltering summer heat. Lead instructor Greg Stith tells us hot days like this pose a big concern, but the students can get a leg up, and this is something they drill into them by staying hydrated.
Most of our work is done in rubber gloves and rubber sleeves. So you're in long pants, long sleeve shirt, hard hats, rubber gloves, rubber sleeves. You have to stay hydrated, and you have to make sure you watch the heat. You know, try to stay in the shade what you can. Naturally, emergencies, you have to be out in it. If it's normal work, I think the companies do pretty well with kind of monitoring that and maintaining that.
Now, Stith also says they constantly monitor the heat index throughout the day to make sure students are learning safely. They still have to know what to be able to do. And when it gets too dangerous, they will move their lessons indoors. So that's just one perspective for what it means to be as prepared as you can, understanding how hot it is outside, hydrating, and just understanding that when called upon for work, you got to go do something outdoors, and they prepare for that as best as they can. But we also want to show you something our troubleshooters were looking into today, and it's a story that starts with just wanting to keep people safe in their own apartments and homes whenever it is so uncomfortably hot outside. And in this family's case, it's not only that they haven't had air conditioning, it's the case that it hasn't been there available for them to keep them cool for 2 weeks. And complaints about broken air conditioners have been flooding into the troubleshooter hotline, understandably so. Some folks are even saying they're having issues getting through to home warranty companies, appliance warranty companies. So this is something our troubleshooters wanted to keep looking into. In particular, we found out one apartment complex here in town has been fined by Metro for failing to fix the AC. That's called the Waterston Lakeview Apartments. And for the record, they advertise air conditioning as part of what they call the finest maintenance-free living in the city. Again, this mother tells us her AC has been broken for weeks, and she did invite us inside of her apartment just so you could see. Malaya Landrum telling us she woke up on the 12th, she was feeling hot, and she put her thermostat setting to cool, but the AC was blowing hot air. So she says maintenance came in, the unit needed more Freon, but that was that. There was no repair since that interaction, she says. And then she finally bought her own window AC unit because her 3-year-old daughter was suffering from heat rashes. She tells you the experience was miserable, to say the least.
I was putting cold rags in the freezer, you know, taking them out and putting on me and my daughter's head. Sometimes I would have to go stay at my mother's house or a friend's house because, like I said, it would get too hot in here. And it's to the point that sometimes I can't even cook because a couple of days ago I cooked and it got up to 90 degrees in here.
So unbearable, to say the least, right there. By the way, we did find out that the city had fined the apartment complex $200 for failing to fix the air conditioner. The on-site property manager referred us to the corporate office in Ohio, and that was the work our troubleshooter Mark Stevens had been doing today. Now, we found out that that corporate office did not return his call, so that was one avenue that was closed off for him as it pertains to trying to get those answers. But they apparently have bigger problems, our troubleshooters learned. The feds raided the former CEO's home last fall, debarred the company from getting any more HUD money federally across the country. And by the way, if you wanted to dive deeper into Mark's investigation, his full report is up on our website, wave3.com. So a very fascinating investigation that opened up doors and those sort of tentacles and connection points to what's been now a federal investigation into the overall property owning company. Now, wanted to let you all know there's much more going on today at 8:11. As I'm looking at the clock, we're trying to make sure that, in fact, the big soccer game at Lynn Family Stadium is still going on. In fact, it kicked off at around 7:30. So just want to show you all a little bit of a preview of some of the video we have, because it is now the second matchup between Lou City and there seems to be budding German rivals from the Bundesliga, Eintracht Frankfurt. And so the kickoff, we know, started around 7:30. If you went to the last matchup, last time they came here, the boys in purple lost to Frankfurt last year. It is the second time they're doing battle on the pitch. It seems to, again, be something that's part of that international exhibition-friendly showcase. As we get any updates for score lines and the big statistics, we'll make sure to share that with you as we're moving on. And while we're at it, why don't we take a look at the skyline? This is from our SkyTrack camera in Jeffersonville. You can see just not too many clouds out there in the sky, and just feeling that 91 degrees from outside, but looking calm along the river and the skyline there. A little bit, let's say, to the left of where the camera would be shooting. We could get that view from a very far away, Lynn Family Stadium, but definitely something to keep in mind. As we'll, enjoy, hopefully everyone's enjoying the football action, but doing so safely, hydrating as best as they can. So more of something to enjoy as we're moving through the evening. All right, we do have more stories to share with you as I'm scrolling through my master list of things to have here. So going through this production central, if you want to call it. So this is now moving into a local company, a local brand with a lot of investment, a lot of ties, a lot of brand recognition, you might say. This is UPS. We've been following, sort of finding out, dealing with economic highs and lows and how the company's trying to manage. If you remember, on Wave News, we discussed sort of what fell through in the cracks with the deal that would not pan out with Amazon, for example. But today we spent some time looking at this impact from an earnings call. Apparently they're saying Trump administration tariffs are creating problems for Louisville's biggest employer, so the one who employs the most people in town. UPS's new earnings report shows it is down for its second quarter. And so for today, Wave News reporter David Mattingly wanted to break down what has been a pretty bad day on Wall Street for the shipping giant.
If there's one thing the financial markets hate, it's uncertainty. And the outlook for UPS is full of it.
Trade follows policy, and generally, tariffs are not good for trade.
In the company's latest earnings call, UPS CEO Carol Tomei reported earnings down and frustrations up as tariffs muddy the waters of global shipping.
But there's so much uncertainty out there. We are building scenarios, and the range of the scenarios, well, it's wide enough to drive one of our 18-wheelers through.
The announcement generated nervous headlines declaring an earnings miss, shifting trade policy, and revenue fall as UPS volume takes a hit on tariff-induced weaknesses. And nowhere was that hit felt more than the company's most profitable China to U.S. trade lane, where UPS average daily volume in May and June dropped by over a third compared to last year.
As it relates to the China tariff, that agreement expires on August 12th. Now, it's rumored that will be extended, but we don't know. And so there's uncertainty around tariffs, and then there means there's uncertainty around consumer demand.
On Monday, UPS stock was trading at $101 per share. 3 hours after the earnings call on Tuesday, UPS was trading down near a 9-year low. The drop comes in the midst of a company reorganization as it is closing dozens of facilities and eliminating 20,000 jobs. CEO Tomei mentioned an employee buyout being offered, but no predictions on how many will take the offer.
And our thanks to David Mattingly for that report. Now, he mentioned at the very end discussions about the buyout. This is being offered to only full-time drivers for UPS. And again, at the end of trading today, we were looking at those market calls in the afternoon. UPS stock was down more than 10%. Obviously, leaders involved in sort of making sure those economic relationships, investment are staying as positive as they can. One of those being Louisville Mayor Craig Greenberg. We did see some comments from him saying that he is still optimistic about the company's continued investment here in Louisville. All right, it is 8:16. After we come back from break here on Wave Extra, we're going to dive into some school-related stories. We've been talking about how already for this first week of class for many of our Wave Country districts, but we're going to dive into perhaps some of the tools and resources to get that done. One of that meaning the opening of the hotline to answer all your transportation questions if you're a JCPS family, and the other about the stakeholders and what they hold as their priorities and how the new superintendent coming into his first year is sort of putting those things into perspective. So we will be right back with a very quick break here on Wave Extra. All right, everyone, welcome back. as we approach 8:20 here on tonight's Wave Extra here in the studio. I actually just got a release from the team, and I wish I had the graphic to show you all, but this is just a breaking update because we've been looking into, we'd reached out to, I believe, Humana. And this was us having found out about early reports. Humana was now offering employees a voluntary early retirement package. We were just wanting to confirm that, and we did receive a statement that just came in from a corporate communications director with Humana. And so I want to read you part of this regarding the voluntary early retirement program. And we'll make sure to have the full statement up on our website, wave3.com. We're going to discuss this, of course, tonight on Wave News at 11. But I just want to read you the statement as I have it here in my hand at 8:20. So the statement reads, we're committed to delivering industry-leading health care. In support of the commitment, we evaluate our staffing needs on an ongoing basis, making adjustments when necessary to drive greater organizational efficiency. So this is the statement saying this. To better meet the needs of our business and create greater value for members and patients. As part of all this, Humana is apparently now offering the opportunity of a voluntary early retirement program for employees in certain areas, as they put it, certain departments in the company that meet specific eligibility criteria. Anyone who qualifies for the program and decides to take the option would then be able to pursue whatever they wanted to pursue while having financial support from this early retirement package. They being the company, the statement says they expect the program could interest some eligible employees who have been considering near-term retirement options, and that they're going to take quote, the utmost care to ensure each eligible employee has the support they need as they consider the next step in their career. So here you have the statement from Humana confirming now offering some employees this voluntary early retirement program. Something we'll, of course, keep reaching out for perspectives, further impacts, consequences, something we will definitely look into. Now on to some other stories I want to share with you tonight. JCPS parents, you may know leaders were talking to us over the course of this early week, telling us that this new hotline center, the JCPS Transportation Hotline Center, got more than 600 calls just on their first day open, well over what they received for the first day of that hotline being open last year. So if you don't know that number already, you can call. It's 485-RIDE if you have questions about your kid's bus stop or their schedule. Wave News reporter Fernando Garcia Franceschini was at the call center, literally inside the call center today, to share how this is already making a difference for some of these families.
JCPS employees took more than 600 calls on the first day the transportation hotline was open. For comparison, district leaders say that number was closer to 200 last year. We're told most calls are from parents who need help navigating the online transportation portal. The person in charge of the 485-RIDE hotline says they have about 100 people working the phones. She says most questions can be answered right on the spot with the technology they have available.
If that family's saying something just doesn't seem right, we can then also see that in real time and pull up Google Maps and see, is this within that walk radius? Is it within the correct distance from their home to that bus stop?
Scott says they'll submit tickets for questions they don't have immediate answers to. As of Tuesday morning, the ticketing system had received about 500 submissions. Scott says they've closed about 90% of those already. For families who speak Spanish, they have Spanish-speaking call takers. They also have a live interpretation system for families who speak a language other than English or Spanish. You can find more information on transportation at JCPS with this story on wave3.com. Fernando Garcia Franceschini, Wave News.
So as that remains a concern for parents as we get deeper and closer into the new school year for 2025 into 2026, we spent some time on Monday listening to JCPS's new superintendent taking feedback in his first community forum. With the start of the school year for JCPS now that 8 or 9 days away, the discussion was one in a series of events that are happening before the 7th. Parents, teachers, neighbors at large talking to the district's new top officers about what they feel is their most pressing concerns. We did spend some time talking to some teachers at Monday night's forum. Some of the educators we met also put on their parent hats. The conversations were touching on everything from hiring more teachers, keeping them around for the long term, getting kids to and from school safely. So again, the transportation issue coming up. But those who were in the audience also got a sense of where Dr. Yearwood's concern lies, and that is getting the essential jobs done with the money they have. And so this is the report our Logan Perrone filed.
For Seneca teachers Mary Ellen Sant and Janice Dean, it's safe to say August 7th is marked on their calendars.
It's a new journey for us with a new superintendent. I'm excited.
The two joined dozens of other faculty members, families, and people from across the community with questions and feedback for new superintendent Dr. Brian H. Yearwood. With less than 2 weeks before school starts, they wanted to know how the district plans on recruiting and keeping more teachers, instructional aides, and support staff.
We need those assistants in our rooms. We need the help. We really do.
Staffing was just one of many topics, along with transportation, mental health, equity, and more. Many of the topics tied together on one common thread.
Budget, the budget deficit. It's this doggone budget deficit.
Dr. Yearwood says the district is working to find the best balance to deal with the balance sheet, one that's expected to face around $150 million in cuts in the next 2 years.
We're looking at it all to determine what is the best way possible through this that is less harmful to our educational process. So again, the verdict is out. We are still looking at every option right now.
Yearwood also says transparency is part of the collaborative process between JCPS and the community.
As long as, again, that interaction is one that is honest, upfront, transparent, that's what I'm going to be about.
Sant and Dean called that mindset vital for the district to improve.
I think, honestly, when our administration is transparent, that's the best way to be.
That was the report from our Logan Perrone. If you're interested in coming in to sit down and offer that commentary or comments to Yearwood, we do know there's one more forum scheduled for tomorrow night. So those details you can find in our story on wave3.com if you want to join this upcoming forum. A full list of those dates and times for the community conversations at Access is for you. Okay, we're going to take another break with some more headlines, updates, and stories here on Wave Extra, so hope you stick around. We will be right back. All right, welcome back to Wave Extra as we approach the half hour at 8:30. Want to let you know about more of these headlines, updates we have for you. A court hearing today ended with a noticeable tension in that room as two former JCPS football coaches are still indicted on dozens of charges that include rape, and unlawful transaction with a minor. So Donnie and Ronnie Stoner, twin brothers. Donnie was a former Manual High School head football coach. Ronnie was a Fern Creek offensive coordinator in 2017. And so you're seeing our view and our audio and video from inside of the courtroom right there. Now, Donnie Stoner's charges include sodomy, rape, and sexual abuse. Back in July of 23, claims surfaced he had sexually abused a female student. In fact, the student, who was 17 at the time, told LMPD that Stoner picked her up, drove her to his house, and sexually assaulted her. Ronnie Stoner faces similar charges, and as you're seeing a bit of it there, some tensions flaring up. In one instance, you're about to hear between the judge and a defense attorney representing his client.
To date, there have been 14.
And I'm definitely talking to the lawyers, not the cameras, to remind you all, the purpose of bond is not to punish, it's to...
You're talking 50,000?
Yes.
Because they don't have 50,000, Judge. And these charges go back to 2005.
That's my decision. That's the bond.
Please note my objection, Judge, because I think this is a grandstand political move where they've gone back 20 years to put these men in jail. 20 years. They can't post 50,000. They don't have 50,000. They're getting punished before trial, and they're getting punished by bond. They can't possibly make it. On a case where they're back, and he's been going to court for 2 years.
Counsel, I am not grandstanding, but I am listening closely to you. And Mr. Sims, you need to have a seat. That's my decision, and you need to sit quietly. Do you understand?
So you just heard that exchange, and we're going to take a closer look at some of the back and forth tonight on Wave News at 11. Also, a third man indicted in this case, Zachary Kilgore. His charge is for complicity to rape. So any updates pending in the case, we'll make sure to share with you as whatever is discussed in court and decided by a judge moves along. So. Forgive a little bit of moving around the different videos because we had some more stories, updates to share with you. The one you saw there being that Louisville Metro health leaders confirming there's now a second case of measles in Jefferson County. Public Health confirming that they learned of the case Monday, and leaders say this patient, the second one, is a known contact with the child who was first infected July 15th. The health department says that person in this case has been in quarantine since finding out about that exposure. Metro says there hasn't been any new public exposure here within the city, but they also want to remind people Louisville has not been the only city in Kentucky dealing with recorded measles cases.
To date, there have been 14 cases of measles across the state. I'd like to reiterate that our 2 cases are not related to the outbreak in Fayette and Woodford County.
So that was Dr. Chris Bryant. She's urging everyone who has not been vaccinated for measles to do so. And a little bit also in their announcement on the first case from earlier this month, health leaders shared that the child was traveling internationally to a country currently dealing with an ongoing measles outbreak, and they believe that the child was infected during that particular trip, not while still being in Louisville in Jefferson County. And now, perhaps moving to the bigger story with eyes on it from across the country. What was breaking news as we were going about on Monday night, initial video images of what looked like a mass shooter, and tragically so now, a deadly mass shooting in the middle of Manhattan in New York City. There have been some images we've been seeing now, a small memorial popping up outside the site of where the shooting happened. 4 people killed, including a young NYPD officer. Now, officials still investigating. They say that the gunman drove across the country to carry out the attack, specifically trying to get into an NFL headquarters office before turning the weapon on himself. So reporter Lee Waldman files this report from New York.
There's still remnants left over from Monday evening shooting outside of the office building where it happened here in New York City. You can see the flags there lowered to half staff. There's broken glass and a growing memorial for the 4 people killed by the 27-year-old assailant. Police say Shane Devin Tamora carried out the attack after driving to New York City from Las Vegas. Authorities are working to determine a motive, but New York City Mayor Eric Adams says a suicide note was found in Tamora's pocket, expressing grievances with the NFL and saying he suffered from CTE, a disease linked to head trauma. In the note, he asked for his brain to be studied. The NFL has an office in the building where this mass shooting happened. Mayor Adams says those offices were the target of Tamora's attack, but he got on the wrong elevator.
From our preliminary investigation, he took the wrong elevator bank up to the NFL headquarters. Instead, it took him to Rudin Management, and that is where he carried out additional shootings and took the lives of additional employees.
The shooting, the deadliest in New York City in 25 years, took the lives of 4 people, including an off-duty NYPD officer, Didarul Islam, a 36-year-old immigrant from Bangladesh who was on the police force for 3.5 years. Islam was in uniform while working security at the building. Police say he had 2 young sons, and his wife is 8 months pregnant with their 3rd. Wesley LePatner, an executive at investment firm Blackstone, was also killed. In a staff memo, the NFL shared an employee was seriously injured. Police say Tamura used an assault-style weapon in the attack, fatally shooting himself before he could be apprehended by the police. New York Governor Kathy Hochul is calling for a nationwide ban on assault weapons in light of this attack. We're also learning that there's going to be a memorial here to honor those lives that were lost. In Midtown Manhattan, I'm Lee Waldman.
We're here at 8:34 with another view of our sunset from our SkyTrack camera system. This is the view of the skyline and, of course, the skyscrapers there from other side of the river in Jeffersonville as we're rounding out around 8:35. Hope you stick around. We're going to have one more story to share with you right here on Wave Extra. Cheering on as you see the view from Indiana there. We've got a lot of softball fans hoping that one team of young all-stars in particular makes it quite far on a national stage. So we're going to take a quick break and be right back. Appreciate everyone hanging around for us tonight as we're getting closer to the quarter hour, 9 here on Wave Extra in the Wave Now studio. One last thing we wanted to leave you with was a little bit of a Little League World Series and softball preview, because for the second time ever, Floyd's Knobs softball is going to the big stage, and the whole town, of course, is behind the squad. This is our Kendrick Haskins with this update with the players.
The bats are still cranking over at Floyd Central High School. As the biggest stars in town, the Floyd's Knobs 12U softball team gets ready to head back to the Little League World Series.
You know, it's really special for this group. It's just a surreal moment.
The program has made it this far before.
That was a long time ago.
2017 is a long time ago in kids' years, I guess. Either way, this team is making history, and all of Floyd County has their backs.
Everybody believes that we can do it, so we just keep going and going and going. It's just like really cool. Today I went to my friend's house and they're like, hey, I need to get your autograph real quick.
This team is obviously made up of great players who can sometimes remind you they're 12.
I call bottom bunch. I'm afraid of heights.
While winning the World Series is a motivation, some players like Grace Fiore have extra motivation.
Well, my parents said I'd get a puppy if I win. So I've been thinking about that.
And of course, she already has one picked out.
Do you know what kind of puppy you want?
A Frenchie.
Why a Frenchie?
I don't know, they're cute. And I saw one at the hotel and I want one.
You hear that, Mom and Dad? Incentives aside, this is a confident bunch who is not satisfied with just making it to the World Series.
We had intention of winning Central Region, and you know, I think it would be poor of me not to keep that same pressure on them of like, let's go win this.
Appreciate Kendrick joining and checking in on their practices and their progress. So hopefully, you know, they make it quite deep into the tournament and who knows, maybe get to that championship game and win it all. A reminder, as we get any breaking updates, headlines, stories, all of that is updated really quick for you on the wave3.com homepage on our website. You can see just, again, those big stories coming in. In fact, this is about the former Indiana State Trooper's acquittal. And so that is something we've just updated on our homepage. Again, all these local stories with impacts to so many here in our neck of the woods in Wave Country. Of course, if you stick with us and get those updates, we'll send them on your smartphones through the Wave app, through the Wave Weather app for any of those weather concerns. Stick around. I say that, of course, all the time. But hopefully you join us tonight on Wave News at 11 because we do also have some of those breaking updates. We want to add more context for you, given the statement now from Humana confirming they're reaching out to employees about taking an early retirement package. So that'll be something we'll have more time to flesh out and discuss tonight as we round out Tuesday, July 29th. I want to appreciate everyone who's joined us on their Wave Now apps from their smart device or smart TVs at home, Facebook, X, YouTube, and Twitch. Always appreciate you joining us to discuss the stories that matter to you and have an impact here in Wave Country. So appreciate everyone's time. That's going to do it for us tonight. We'll see you tomorrow.